What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over one battle after another. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you guys like talking about movies, TV show, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. And like I said, today we are talking about one battle after another. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, One Battle After Another is another movie by Paul Thomas Anderson. Now, I can't say that I'm too familiar with this filmography. From what I hear from other people, they're not that into his movies. He's a very great director and writer, but being on the same wavelength of what his movies are kind of like, seems like a lot of people aren't in as big of a fan as his filmography as I thought they would be. But this movie was honestly, I want to say surprising. It was something I was definitely looking forward to, but it was a lot different than what I was expecting, but still very much enjoyable. Now, before I give you my thoughts on One Battle After Another, let me know what you guys think about this movie in the comment section down below. Also, let me know if you guys enjoy Paul Thomas Anderson as a director. Let's hear our guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into my pros. And starting on my pros, this movie is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to the cinematography, the shot choices, the directing, the style. It is all very fun and such a great movie in terms of like the technical aspect of it. You know, again, speaking against great cinematography, great shot choices, the lighting is absolutely amazing. You have great performances by pretty much every single person in this movie. And you have a very interesting story as well, where essentially you have our main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays Bob Ferguson, and his daughter, Willa, who are after, about 15, 16 years after their kind of domestic terrorist things that they kind of do, they're kind of like in hiding, and they end up kind of being caught and have to go on a run. And it's a very tight knit, but also very open kind of a world that they're building here. It feels like there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts and different levels to this, and so many intricate things kind of going on that all mesh together that somehow fit all into one piece. But at the same time, it is very tight knit, where we really are, for the most part, following Bob Ferguson, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and his kind of journey of one trying to escape, and also him trying to find his daughter. And that's more or less kind of what's going on here. There's a lot more kind of intricate things that are beneath the surface, and just all these different levels and different characters and who's at play that really cause all these things to kind of go down, and how it all really just interweaves with each other. So there's a lot more going on than just that simple premise of Leonardo DiCaprio's trying to escape from being in custody and trying to find his daughter. There's a lot more going on beyond that, of course, but obviously, I don't want to go into too much detail and not spoil anything to you, but this just really hones in on that. And there's a lot of things that are going on, like politically, and different characters and kind of their mindsets and their views, and how it all kind of leads them to the situations that they are now, while still really having a very nice sense of humor. Like, this movie feels very stressful and anxiety inducing, especially Leonardo DiCaprio's character, where he's very, very, erratic and always kind of having his eyes all over the place, and he just looks a mess. And he's an alcoholic, he's a drug abuser. So you have his character that is just so anxiety inducing, because he's just trying to escape, trying to find a way out, trying to get to this rendezvous point to meet up with his daughter. Well, you have all these stressful things going on, all these different situations and chase scenes, and firefights and battles and all these different things going on. You still have this really nice, witty sense of humor, especially from Leonardo DiCaprio's character, where just his general reactions just make you laugh. And there's a bunch of other people that cause like this very nice sense of humor that breaks up the tension, but at the same time, the tension never lets up. From beginning to end, this movie is really on a go, go, go type of pace. And so this movie has very great pacing, very great directing and stuff like that. The way the movie is structured, where you never feel bored. And especially in a movie that's almost 3 hours long, that's something that you always go into being a little worried of how this movie is really going to pace for being such a long film. But they did a great job of always keeping you at the edge of your seat, always something going on. There's always some sort of action or chase sequence or intense moments, or places where they're trying to hide, where you feel the tension from the outside coming in. So a great film in that aspect. I also want to shout out Sean Penn's character, who from the trailers, they made him out to seem to be something completely different. But when you get into it, it is a very, very strange turn that they took this character in, where I did not expect it at all. It might be a little too weird for some people, but I think it's a very great way to take this character, very interesting. We have our main protagonist with Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Chase Infinity's character as his daughter, who is kind of hard to, really invest yourself in them, which we'll get into a little bit later. But you have this even more greater evil with Sean Penn's character, who's this kind of like military guy, police, law enforcement, who he kind of is in charge of these detainment centers, for immigrants and things like that. And he is seemingly to be very racist, but also not at the same time. He's trying to get into this like group that's very, very, KKK-ish, but he still has a very ginormous fascination for Leonardo DiCaprio's, wife or girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, who is, black. And so he just has a very interesting characteristics to him, where he seems, very racist, but also not at the same time, kind of a little overly sexualized towards a lot of different people, where it kind of throws you off on the character a little bit. And so there's a lot of things going on with this character that is very, very interesting, and you never really know how to feel about him. Every time he's on screen, you're always a little worried about what his next move is going to be. And so it ends up being very, very intense in that moment, where you don't want him to succeed because he seems like to be the greater evil, but our main characters aren't really that great of people either. So it really tries to balance that out, and it makes it for a fun kind of dynamic, because they still throw that sense of humor into it with all this really serious nature all kind of lingering throughout the movie. There's still this very fun, witty tone to it. So it's really kind of crazy how they were able to kind of execute this movie, especially in, today's standards, and still make it fun while having a very kind of serious tone all over it. But overall, this movie is just very interesting. I'm not sure what they were really trying to go for. There's obviously some sort of message and things like that you can really try to extract out of it, but it ends up being a little strange of the execution of it, and ends up being kind of more of like a fun action thriller movie and very anxiety inducing. So it is a very fun movie to watch, a very interesting movie to watch, something that intrigues you with what Paul Anderson's style really is, and kind of makes you want to continue his filmography and see if this style kind of seeps in through all of his other films. But I think it is a movie that is fun to watch on the big screen, not necessarily a movie I would rewatch all the time though. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my cons. And the biggest con for me is the characters. While I enjoy all the characters and I think they all did great performances, you find yourself kind of unable to connect with any of them. Of course, you can't really connect with Sean Penn's character because his character is just way out there. But even someone like Leonardo DiCaprio's character, where they try to have you sympathize with him, empathize with him a little bit. At the end of the day, they go out of their way at the first 10 minutes of the movie to show that these characters are domestic terrorists. You see them, attacking ICE facilities. You see them attacking political offices and bombing offices, bombing banks, just because they don't like their political view. So you see these characters really trying to go against the grain, move the needle in a very, very intense way, in a way that most of us would think to be not the right way to go about it. So when you have characters that are killing people, they're attacking facilities, they're attacking banks, they're attacking political offices for their own kind of means, it's kind of hard to really empathize with them because they're literally bombing and shooting people, and that is just where it gets a little weird and a little tone deaf in terms of what they were trying to go with these characters and the direction in which way you were supposed to connect with them. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio's character does a great enough job where you like his character because he's funny and He's a very erratic character, so it's kind of fun to just watch him on screen. But at the core of it, there's nothing really about his character that makes you want to see him win at the end. The only person that I can say you want to see them win is his daughter, because she wasn't involved in this, when they were doing all these bombings and shootings and stuff. So she's the only one that you really want to see get out of this. But everyone else, you could really not care less whether they live or die or if they end up succeeding or not, because every character in this movie has some sort of ill intent on another person or on another group. So it ends up being very, very strange. And while still enjoyable, a movie that ends up being just something that you don't really know exactly what they were trying to go for. So because of those aspects, this movie just ends up being a movie that's not very rewatchable. Still a great film. I would still highly recommend to watch it once at the very least, but a movie that is not something you could see yourself, throwing on because it was just that great. There's performances here that could be Oscar worthy. I think Leonardo DiCaprio could win an Oscar because of this performance that he did here. But again, it is just a movie that I don't know what they were trying to go for. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope this review doesn't get me in trouble. But let me know what you guys thought about this movie in the comment section down below. Let me know if I'm a little out there with my views on this film. This is kind of just literally 20 minutes out of the theater doing this review. So these thoughts are very fresh. And sometimes I like to let myself sit and simmer with my thoughts and really kind of gather what I want to say. But I kind of just wanted to go right at it and see kind of how this turns out. So hopefully it turned out good. But again, if you guys like talking about movies, TV show, video game later, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.